The rusty key nobody wanted. The laughter started before I even set the key on the table. "Dad, what is that?" My granddaughter Priya giggled, wrinkling her nose. "It looks like something from a museum trash can." My son-in-law Farhan smirked over his coffee. "Probably doesn't even open anything anymore. Throw it out. It's just taking up space." I didn't answer. I just closed my fingers around it and slid it back into my pocket. My name is Nasir. I am 68 years old, and for the last 3 years, I have lived in the small guest room of my daughter Amna's house. Ever since your mother passed, and the big house became too quiet, too heavy, too full of her voice in every corner. I am not a man who argues. I have never needed to raise my voice to be heard, at least, not in the years when people still cared to listen. But lately, in this house, I have become something like furniture, useful when needed, ignored the rest of the time. That evening, while clearing the drawer in the hallway console, Amna found the key again. I had left it there the week before, forgotten in the rush of grocery bags and school pickups. She held it up between 2 fingers like it was something dead. "Abu, seriously, what is this for?" "What? It doesn't match any door in this house. It's just clutter." She dropped it into a small plastic bag destined for the donation bin, right next to a broken toaster and a stack of old magazines. I said nothing. I waited until the house was asleep, and I took it back. "That key belonged to your grandmother's uncle, a quiet, private man named Rashid who died before any of you were born. He left it to me 40 years ago, wrapped in a handkerchief, with only one sentence. When the family forgets what matters, remember where this fits." I did not understand him then. I was young, and grief makes riddles feel like nonsense. I put the key in an old cigar box and forgot about it myself, for decades, until I found it again while packing up your grandmother's things last year. I never told anyone what he said. Some inheritances are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be earned back into memory. The next morning, Farhan made a joke at breakfast that landed harder than he intended. "You know, Abu, some men leave their sons houses and businesses. Others leave rusty keys to nothing. Guess we know which one we got." The table laughed. Even Amna, tired and stretched thin from work and children, let out a small, apologetic smile before catching my eye and looking away. I finished my tea in silence and went for my walk, like I do every morning. But that day I did not walk toward the park. I walked toward the old part of the city, past the shuttered fabric shops and the mosque with the crooked minaret, until I reached a narrow street I had not visited in 12 years. The building was still there, smaller than I remembered, squeezed between a currency exchange and a shop selling motorcycle parts. The brass nameplate had gone dark with age, but I could still make out the letters. Rashid and Sons, Trust Depository, EST, 1961. The old caretaker, a stooped man named Yusuf, who must have been near 90, blinked at me for a long moment before recognition dawned. "Nasir Sahib," he whispered. We wondered if anyone would ever come. Inside, past a door that hadn't been opened in over a decade, sat a single steel safe, untouched by time in the way only forgotten things are. My hands shook slightly as I fitted the key into the lock. It turned with a heaviness that felt like it was turning back years, not just tumblers. Inside were three things: a stack of property deeds, land your Uncle Rashid had quietly purchased in the years before the city grew around it, now worth more than anyone in our family could imagine, a ledger, handwritten, tracking small monthly transfers he'd made into an account in my name since 1987, money I never touched, never even knew was accumulating, because I never had reason to look, and a letter, addressed simply, to whoever remembers me. I read it standing there in that dusty room, my eyes burning. He had no children of his own. He had watched families around him chase money and forget kindness, chase status, and forget the people who gave without asking for anything back. He didn't want to hand his life's quiet work to someone who would simply spend it. He wanted it to go to someone who understood that some things are earned through patience, not entitlement. He'd left it to me, and, through the ledger's final page, a wish that it pass eventually to whichever of my children or grandchildren proved they valued family over things. I did not say anything for 2 days. I let the laughter continue at breakfast. I let Farhan make one more joke about the old man's junk drawer. I let it happen, not out of bitterness, but because I needed to understand something first. I needed to see who, in this house, would notice that I had gone quiet, and ask why. It was Priya, my granddaughter, 11 years old, the one who had laughed loudest at the key. She found me on the balcony that second evening, staring at nothing. "Nana," she said quietly, sitting beside me, "did we hurt your feelings? About the key?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Why do you ask?" "Because you always tell me things have stories. You said the teapot from Nani had a story. You said your old watch had a story. I think we didn't ask about the key's story. We just laughed at it." That was when I told her, not the whole truth yet, but enough, that the key had belonged to someone who loved this family before she was born, that some things look like nothing because we never stopped to ask what they were. The following week, I gathered everyone at the dining table, Amna, Farhan, Priya, and her younger brother. I placed the deeds and the ledger in the center of the table, next to the small rusty key. The room went silent in a way I hadn't heard in years. Farhan's face changed color twice, first pale, then red with something that looked like shame. "Abu, I didn't know. I was joking. I never meant." "I know," I said, "and I meant it. You didn't know. That was never the point." Amna's eyes filled with tears as she read the letter, her hand trembling over her uncle's handwriting. "All this time, you knew, and you let us laugh at you?" "I didn't know until 3 days ago," I said gently, "but I have been laughed at for other things much longer than that. This was never about money. It was about whether this family still remembers how to see value in things and people that don't announce themselves loudly. I am not writing this to tell you I became wealthy overnight, though I suppose in some practical sense I did. I am telling you this because the real inheritance was never the deeds or the ledger. It was watching my daughter hold my hand that night and apologize not for the joke, but for 3 years of not truly seeing me. It was watching Farhan start asking me questions about my life, instead of making assumptions about it. It was Priya, who now asks me about every old object in this house, because she learned that value is often invisible until someone cares enough to look. The key still sits in a small wooden box on the hallway console. Nobody has tried to throw it away since.